Hello and welcome. Welcome to the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. This podcast is for and about women of colour and our relationship with nature. Hosted by me, Sheree Mack. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is committed to exploring the experiences of women of colour with Mother Nature. We want to provide spaces where the hidden voices in the environmental and conservation conversations can explore their relationship with the natural world. Inspired by our time spent outdoors, we amplify the voices of women of colour, our stories, our conversations, interviews, photography, writing, and artwork. We'll be exploring our legacies, histories, and memories which have had an influence and effect upon how we perceive ourselves within the natural world and within the environmental and climate justice movements. The Earth, Sea, Love podcast is a space for women, feminine, and non-binary people who are Black, Indigenous, people of colour to explore their relationship with nature. Thank you. Hi, it's me again, Dr. Sheree Mack, your host of the Earth, Sea, Love podcast. And this is our third and final episode that we're dropping today on the 13th of July, 2025 to mark the 5th born day of the podcast. Yeah, I left a silence there. I left the silence so that achievement could sink in, giving it its rightful place there within the scheme of things. We did good. We do good. I'm so excited to share this episode with you. I'm talking to Pauline Mayers. Again, a wonderful woman, creative artist that has recently crossed my path, but who I feel has been within my life for many, many years. It's so weird when that happens, but I think what is happening is there's a recognition between us. We see each other and it's not on a shallow level. I mean, straight away, we have been conversing on some deep, profound, soul-wrenching and also soul-nourishing issues and topics and conversations. So I'm so pleased to be able to share part of the conversation with you because I know for a fact it's an ongoing conversation I'm having with Pauline, and I am so grateful for it. Pauline Mayers. Talk about a multi-dimensional, multi-genre, multidisciplinary artist there. I was getting there. There's not enough words, not enough labels or titles or beings to be able to describe Pauline. I mean, photographer, dancer, director, actress, writer, poet. It goes on. Such a rich. I'm not going to say identity's rich, or just a richness that is brought to this conversation, but to the world. A word that keeps coming up within this conversation where Pauline is sharing the season that she's in with her life is rupture. A number of ruptures that have happened recently and in the past in Pauline's life, and she shares about them, in light of saying where she is now, and that is on a healing and reclamation journey, and walking out there, out with nature, is helping, supporting, creating the right environment for Pauline to heal, to reclaim herself on her own terms now, and for her to be living through her creative practice into possible futures which are unknown but can be felt within our bodies, that these are beautiful futures because we are creating these futures in our now. They have to be in our now. We can't be putting off our lives and how we live them on our own terms until some future that we might not even get to. But to have the imagination, the play, and not just the power, but the courage to step into our futures now, to embody our futures now with the help and support of nature, and also our communities, the communities that we create, because we create them. They are safe communities. To be able to do that now, that is what fugitivity and freedom and liberatory practices are now. This is what I believe. This is where I'm leaning. This is where, the Earthsea Love podcast is. And this is where Pauline is, because it's Pauline, having this conversation with Pauline has brought this full circle, have brought this clarity, has brought this excitement, has brought this energy that we're feeding back in to the Earthsea Love podcast. We're feeding back into the conversations that we have with each other, and we're feeding it back into our lives, in our own little small corners of this earth, of this country, of this landscape. We're in these corners by ourselves, but we know we're feeding off the energy that we're getting from others that are like us, living like us, being like us, exploring like us. So yeah, as you can hear, I'm very excited to be sharing this episode with you. I've been excited for sharing the 3 episodes with you, and I'm so excited to be celebrating the 5th born day of the Earthsea Love podcast. Thank you for being with us on this journey and sticking with us on this journey. These are the 3 that we're going to be launching this summer, 13th of July, and then we're going to have the summer off. We're going to have a little bit of rest, because you know me, it's still the teacher in me. I love my 6 weeks of the summer holidays just being, resting, eating, drinking, reconnecting with self, nature, and others. And please take permission now yourself. Get some rest and enjoy a slower pace over the summer. Until next time, bye for now. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello.
Welcome, Pauline, to the Earthsea Love podcast. And I'm so excited to see you again and to chat with you again, because, I have this feeling, we just met. I want to say met maybe June.
Yes. last
Just,
month.
yeah, 2025. But I feel like you've been in my life for ages and not in a bad way. Not in a bad way. I feel blessed that you are gracing my life at this moment in time. So I appreciate you. I want to put that out before we even have this conversation.
Okay, then. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on the podcast. And actually, the same. When we did the creative methodologies workshop last month,
Mhm.
and on the Zoom as it is, I just remember looking at all the faces, and somehow my eyes landed straight on you. And I think at some point I'd typed in, "We've got,
You
let's connect, let's find a way to get to, yeah,
You did.
yeah,
And that fills my heart. That does, because it means that even though we're doing this through screens virtually, that my energy is still coming across, that me, the true me, authentic me, is still coming across those airways, those cyberspace jazz sort of things.
100%. I think it's funny, isn't it? Because Zoom is always feels, for some people, it feels very impersonal.
Mhm, mhm.
But I'll be really frank, I can read like body language so much better and so much easier. And it's interesting when you don't have the noise of people around you or things happening that you can really hone in on the person that you're speaking to, or even just being part of a workshop. So it was very fortuitous, I will say.
It was
Yeah.
meant to meet. Our paths were meant to cross or circle in the same circle. But let's stop me chatting. Let's get to you. So the first thing I ask is where you zooming in from, where you calling in from, and can you see any nature where you are at this moment in time?
Cool. Well, I am phoning in, zooming in, I should say, from my living room, which is in the middle of Leeds. And as I look outside my window, it's a beautifully sunny day. Leeds is one of the greenest cities in the country. Um, we have many parks and places to go and roam. And even outside my window, when I look outside, it's like the sun is streaming in, although it's not coming into this particular apartment. Um, the trees are out. I can see squirrels. I can see jays, the bird jays. Uh, and sometimes when it's sunny like this, sometimes the red kites come out. This is an area where red kites kind of roam very, very freely. And sometimes just walking down the street, I can just see this beautiful, magnificent bird hover and pass my head, which is amazing. And I'm so glad that I live in a place where I can see such things. All you have to do is look up, and
Sometimes
even
we do that.
say, say
Some,
again.
sometimes we forget to do that though, don't we, to look up?
Looking up is something that I find myself doing all the time. Um, I think partly because, there's the sky, of course, but there are so many magnificent buildings here in Leeds.
Mhm.
Uh, a lot of it from kind of like the 1800s straight through to now. And even though the city centre is pretty, yeah, it's pretty contemporary in its buildings, there are some buildings that are still present in there. You've got the Kirkgate Market, which at one point was Europe's biggest indoor market
Yeah.
at one point. And so it's just really it's such a humbling thing to look up, because you remember that you're not it's not just you on this planet. There's you plus 7 billion other people, some of whom may be looking up at exactly the same moment.
Mm.
Some of whom might be going through some of the same challenges
Yeah.
as you, maybe manifesting very differently. Um, and of course, beyond the kind of the blue marble that is the Earth, we've got the entire universe out there with a multitude of black holes and so on and so forth. So a lot, sometimes when I go out and I'm walking, particularly, I always try to look up. That's
Mm.
the thing that I always do.
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Because it is how I usually judge my own mental health, mental state, and emotional and psychological state by if I'm looking up and looking
Mm.
the clouds or looking at the stars. And if I'm doing it and I think, oh my gosh, I haven't done this for a while, then that is for me, it's telling me, what's been happening, Sheree? You know, what has been going on if you haven't been looking up at the sky, you know? And I know because like just these last couple of days I've been looking at the sky, and it's because I've been having that space or trying to give myself that space.
Mm.
Um, of contemplation, of peace, of stillness and quiet, but also just to give thanks, just to give thanks. So thank you for that. And that's awesome that you're living in the center, like in an urban area, but you still got lots of nature around. And that is another reminder, is like we don't have to go far. We don't have to trek out too far because it's on our doorstep.
I mean,
Maybe.
it literally is. Yeah. I mean, I think some of the kind of the pathways and what they call the ginnels. Like I'm from London, right? So ginnel was not something that I was really aware of in my vocabulary until I came to Leeds. But the kind of the ginnels, which are these kind of little kind of pathways, I guess, that go from one place to the other. Usually it's taking in a very quiet kind of little pathway to go from one point to the other, or sometimes it goes through a side of it sounds ridiculous, but bushes basically to get from one place to the other. And so there's a lot of exploration that can happen just on your own doorstep. You don't necessarily have to go running out for miles and miles and miles.
No, but sometimes it helps to go for miles.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
We're going to get there. We're going to get there. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. And I know I might have sent the questions like, oh, what do you do? Tell us what you do. But I'm all for, who you be more than what you do. Um, because if we think about white supremacy culture, a lot of the time we are defined by what we do. We see,
Hmm.
no, well, no, I'm not. No, that's like the norm is that we're supposed to get our value or worth from what we do and what we produce. But me, I refuse that, and I'm all into who you be. So answer it in any way you want to, what feels good and right for you.
So I think the way that I'm going to describe this is I'm in a new season for
Ooh.
myself, right? And that new season is partly about healing and partly about reclaiming. Um, just to touch base a little bit on the what do you do? That's very much in flux at the moment. Previously, I would class myself as a multidisciplinary artist, so performing arts. I began that journey at the age of 15 with my first ever movie, which was called Knights and Emeralds back in 1986. Now I'm showing my age, but anyway, 1986. And that movie was about two kind of marching brass bands. Um, and I was, and the one was black and one was white, as in literally racially, the makeup. And so I was in the this marching band, and with this band there was, as well as myself, 15-year-old me, there was this incredible range of dancers, and they came from ballet and contemporary worlds. And it was basically 3 months filming in Birmingham. So, that was me off for 3 months away from my family. And it was the most defining moment, I think, of my life up to that point. I'd started dancing in classes when I was kind of 13, but didn't really take it very seriously. But after 3 months of being in this incredible world, and we had to learn choreography by a woman called Quinny Sachs, who was the choreographer on it. And it was such a seminal moment to be able to be around people who looked like me and who were doing these incredible things. We had to use flags, staff, and ribbons and all sorts. And I just thought, oh, I'll just be a dancer. That's what I'm. So that was the beginning, really, of what ended up being a roughly 20-year career in dance. So I trained at the Rambert School in London. And then after finishing my training, by the time I finished my training, I had appeared in two other movies. One was Chicago Joe and the Showgirl, Keith Sutherland, And that was a whole thing for a whole different podcast. I will tell you that. And the other was The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover. So by the time I was 20, I had done 3 films. I will say, you know, it wasn't like I wasn't featured at all, but you could definitely see it was me. I mean, I got recognized from The Cook, the Thief, His Wife and Her Lover, which was incredible. Bearing in mind, one of the things I was doing was sucking a great big piece of ice, like massive piece of ice. And somehow people recognized me from that. It was, don't ask. Again, another long, that's another for another time. As well as I had been performing with a group called Fusion that came from a place called Weekend Arts College, which is where I did a lot of my classes. And then I spent kind of pretty much 15 to 20 years in repertory-based dance companies. So that basically means it was a dance company that would have 3 separate dance pieces by 3 separate choreographers. So I began that by joining Divergence Dance in Cardiff. Before that, I had worked with a company called Janet Smith and Dancers, who were pretty massive back in the day. And kind of through those 2 experiences, it led me to come to Phoenix Dance Theatre. So I was in Phoenix Dance Theatre, which is what brought me to Leeds, actually. And then spent a bit of time kind of, there was a lot of rupture. There's been a lot of rupture in my life that I've constantly had to rebuild from, which has not been great at all. And then kind of became more freelance. And so I was doing a lot of teaching everywhere. I was doing a lot of teaching of masterclasses. And then I ran a dance company over in the Northeast called Tees Dance Initiative. So I was acting artistic director for that. And then I ruptured my Achilles in 2005. And so that was the beginning of yet another rupture in my life. And because I was in Leeds, I guess, Leeds is not very kind, I think, to Black artists at all, actually. And it kind of trying to get back into the dance world and not making any headway, even though I had all this incredible experience. And that included choreography, as well as performing, as well as teaching masterclasses, etc., etc. It led me to decide to go into theatre in 2010. So I did a lot of collaborations with various theatre companies as a movement director. So I worked with Red Ladder on their Promised Land. I worked with Telltale Hearts Children's Theatre on their production Yum, which was longlisted for a National Lottery Project Award, which was amazing. The piece went to Egypt. I did not. But anyway, moving on. Decided I would do my own work. So I made a piece called What Have I Told You, which opened at what is now the Leeds Playhouse, what was back then West Yorkshire Playhouse. So that was in 2016, and then went on a national tour with that in 2017, which led to me going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival that year and being nominated for an Amnesty International Award shortlisted nomination. So that's me. I'm an award nominee. And so that show did really, really well. I will say that was a piece where I actually thought was going to be my swan song, because I'd had enough of the ebb and flow of work. I know that I am an extraordinarily gifted artist. And what is really interesting is I think people around me also saw that. But they also saw that my skin color would be beneficial to them, which kind of, I didn't quite realize that. It was it was a whole thing. And so my next piece then that I wanted to do was going to do a takeover of a stately home. And I worked with a number of much bigger organizations, and it was just me. And actually the lack of care and respect in that time, I worked on this piece for 5 years, and so much happened in that 5 years, kind of led me to eventually say, I'm not doing this anymore, because I wasn't going to be the conduit through which Black artists, because I was working with a beautiful range of Black women, identifying artists. I wasn't going to have them harmed. I wasn't going to have any audiences coming into the stately home harmed. Um, um, and I just felt, look, if I'm going to be treated badly, you're going to treat everybody else badly. So that was that. But at the same time as that was happening, there was so much jealousy and envy and rage, I think, from people around me. It led to a complete and utter rupture, not just personally, but work-wise as well. And I lost my entire social network, which was devastating. And in the middle of all of that, my dad passed away. So I'm coming out of a really fractious period of my life that was particularly bruising and emotional, filled with a lot of betrayal and manipulation and coercion. Then kind of like over the last kind of year and a half since then, I've been looking to heal, which leads me to, so that's a bit of a whistle stop tour to get to where I am now. Which now it's a really interesting place that I'm in, because so much has happened. I really want to have full autonomy in my life. The one thing that I thought I had all the way through, but actually being at the kind of the ebb and the flow of the environment around me, actually, I'm moving about like a crazy person as well. Just noticed.
Not at all. It's how you're communicating on so many different levels.
Right. Yeah, it's been so much. But the healing that I've been doing at the moment is walking. That's the one thing that I did not think I would be doing. And so my walking journey literally only started this year.
Mm-hmm.
It began with me walking with a colleague on the 1st of January. And by that point, I've been in Leeds now for 26 years. And so much of that time has been about me trying to convince people of who I am, or convince people of the work that I can do, or convince people that I actually know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Same time that is all happening, and the denial of that, at the same time as that, it was still kind of like, oh, our project's in trouble, can you come and help? Or I've led in terms of artist development in my own life, and so at one point I totted it up. I supported in some way, shape or form 60 different artists, not just from the Yorkshire region, but from across the north. I was part of a group of people who literally would give money to artists. So it was almost like being a secret millionaire, right? We were being funded by some random money god. That's the only way I can put it. I did that for about 3-4 years. And so even though I didn't have any money myself, I was given away like, £8,000 here, or £10,000 here, or £5,000 here, to people around me who said that they weren't being supported and they weren't being held, etc., etc., etc. So much of my time has been spent supporting others. That most recent rupture happened, and I found myself alone and isolated and without any support whatsoever, which was so shocking to me. It's taken a bit of time to see this version that you are talking to now come through. So it's a journey that I've found that the healing that I'm doing has been through the walking that I've been doing. And along with that, just wanting for now to take time to figure out what it is that I really want to do.
Gosh, so much in there to unpick, and keep coming back to rupture, and we could, what do you call it? Put it into the negative connotations, but at the same time, change one letter, and it can become also rapture. Yeah, and the idea there of, you started off with that healing and reclamation and how, okay, so you've got this walking journey, and obviously it's outdoors in nature that you're walking, that you're healing, that's nature's holding you. And I'm interested to know is like, when you were saying you spent a lot of time convincing people and convincing people, and this is what I feel or from my experience, convincing people that first of all, human, I have feelings, I'm human, touch me, I bleed, that sort of thing. Convincing people of our worth, that we are enough, but then also convincing like I'm a fucking amazing artist, man. You said it yourself. You're amazing. You're gifted. You're talented. We know it, but we spend so much time and energy trying to convince other people. Look at me. Look, see, I'm so amazing. And really, they're never gonna look because of those lenses of racism, sexism, patriarchy. The whole shebang. And it was Toni Morrison who says it's just a distraction, racism. It's taking our energy away from centering ourselves, centering our people, centering our fullness, on our own terms. Yeah, so I totally get that convincing stuff. So when you're saying you're healing, walking journey, I know nature heals totally. But I'm also interested to see or hear what's the reclamation. Because I know what my reclamation was when I was in nature and getting healed. But I'm interested to hear what's your reclamation. What are you reclaiming?
I think I'm reclaiming, it's such a good question. I think I'm reclaiming the person as I am right now,
Mhm.
right? With the history that I have, that I'm not that history anymore, that I am in a very different place. I'm being in the moment, I'm being in the now.
Mm.
And that's something that um, I hadn't done previously. I was too busy trying to do the proving or get that project off the ground or, you know, kind of travel all over the country because that was the thing. That was the other thing as well. I was never really working in Leeds, right? I was spending a lot of my time working outside of the area. But every time I came back to this area, it was the same thing again. I was having to repeat that I know what I'm doing, or repeat that I have all this experience, or repeat, in an area where that isn't necessarily seen or heard, not on the outside, but people understand it enough to then want to call me into projects. It meant that my energy was fractured and being everywhere, right? So the reclamation for me is to touch base again with myself, right? As I am right now, right? This body that's in her 50s, this body who has lived countless lifetimes, quite literally just in this one lifetime, let alone any others, right? Because at one point I was even in a band. I was a singer in a band for 10 years. Like, what I mean? It's just like, it's insane. The stuff that I have done, you could probably get like 2 or 3 Netflix series from it, right? Quite easily. But
Love
that reclamation as to who I am right now is, for me, the most important thing. That I have scars,
Mm.
but I acknowledge those scars, and the idea of rupture for me is almost like that divorcing, that pulling out and away from me the very thing that I thought held me together.
Mm. Yeah.
And creating a much more grounded foundation for who I am as I move into the autumn of my lifetime.
Oh my gosh, this is so chiming and singing with me. You started, you're in a season of your life, and yeah, definitely I'm in autumn too.
Mm,
But that, I mean, yeah, you've lived many lives within this one lifetime, and it's so rich with the pains and the struggles. There's also the joy and the love. But what you were saying, those scars and acknowledging them and not hiding them, you know? I mean, and that's what well, I say we, but I'm not, and when I say that we, I'm not including me because my eyes are open and I know how things are working now. And like, I embrace my scars while others hide them, are ashamed of them, deny them. But that's what has brought you to this point now. And I love that you reclaiming the person you are right now. It's like it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful because like it so echoes with me. And I'm not going into my traumatic shit hit the fan episode. You know, it's not something I hide. I've talked about it many times. It was the 10th year anniversary. But that idea of things happen which ruptured, destroyed your whole life, and finding yourself maybe standing alone and isolated and that is the only person you can rely on when it comes to it to get back to that foundation, that grounding, and build yourself up. But we've had help. We've had help. Okay, we've got friends. I'm talking about nature here. I'm talking about nature here. So let's talk about your healing walking journey, which happened this year, January 1st. I mean, it's a good marker for the beginning of this transformation, which is always a process. It's always that process of becoming, and it's still happening. But I'm interested to know what has been this walking healing journey practice. Um, what has been feeding in from nature, and how is it maybe influencing or coloring your creative practice? There was a lot in there, but I know you're going to take it and run with it. So yeah, I'm sitting back and enjoying it, mate.
Well, it's so interesting actually. Because of all the things that I've mentioned previously, I had and still have to a certain extent an incredible amount of anger. And you know what's really interesting about that? Throughout my time, I'm sure you have had this as well. Throughout my time of being seen as the angry black woman, right? Uh, 9 times out of 10, it's righteous anger, right? 9 times out of 10. There is that little 1%
Yeah.
where it isn't. And that's, you know, over the last year, I've become perimenopausal. So in that time, there's been moments where I could feel that the rage was something else. It was like Red Hulk. It was like I'm going for people, but it wasn't quite like that. But with that, I absolutely could not bear to be in the city in which I live.
Mm.
The ruptures that happened so severely, the betrayal, the manipulation, the gaslighting, the coercion, the trying to steal my work, or, you know, breaking of trust, all of those things played into the fact that I 100%, and to a certain extent still do, want to leave this place, because actually when ruptures happen like that, it can be difficult to then rebuild in the place in which you've been harmed. Right? So 1st of January, I go walking around, and I don't have any work. I don't have much work, which is, of course, inevitable because I've kind of rebased myself here in Leeds, and of course, nothing has come up. And it's partly two-pronged. That it's partly just the surrounding art sector. And I know lots of people are really suffering at the moment because there's a lack of money, but there's even greater isolation that happens when you are Black and woman identifying and in your 50s. And I felt to myself, you know, I can't keep living with this anger, right? It's going to eat me alive. The shoulda, woulda, coulda, which was what I was ruminating over, was getting to the point where I was once again freezing. I froze from the initial rupture that happened 2 years ago, and then I found myself in this freezing moment again this year. So it was, and I have dates, and the reason why I have dates is because I now take a lot of photographs, which is an interesting thing. So I'll come on to that. But on the 22nd of January, I thought, okay, let me rebuild my relationship with Leeds. Let me see if I can find a different way to look at Leeds through a different lens. So yeah, 22nd of January, I just took myself off and I had breakfast in one place and I walked along the River Aire and I went into Leeds University because they have archives, performance archives over there, and so I had a lovely chat with somebody there, and at the end of that, I went to the cinema and watched the Nickel Boys, which is an incredible piece of work. And for those who might be listening to the podcast, it's about two boys who meet in a corrections facility in quote marks. And the corrections facility is has a lot of young boys in there who are Black, and it's the ways in which the system then treats them. So that was an incredible kind of day, and I thought to myself, well, right, and I got home that night, and I hadn't been doing any writing because I write as well. I hadn't done any writing, and I thought, oh, yeah, I need to do more walking. And through a conversation that I had with a colleague, found out there was something called the Leeds Country Way, which is a walk that goes around the metropolitan boundary of Leeds. It's 63 miles and it happens in kind of 12 parts. And so, right, I'll walk that. So that was the beginning of that journey. And because it's on the boundary and because of where Leeds is, it is literally in a bit of a valley and it's slap bang in the middle of the countryside. So as you walk around the boundary, you are constantly in the countryside. And it was incredible. Each kind of bit is kind of like between 5 and 6 miles long. So, and there's 12 parts to it. So I've been slowly making my way through that. And it was beautiful to start to look at that. You know, I up until that point, I'd been walking from my place in the center of town, and walking towards places like Golden Acre Park or Temple Newsom, which would take, you know, that would take me at that time like 3 or 4 hours. I think it would be a lot faster now because I realized I walk quite quickly, which I didn't realize. And so having that literally on your doorstep, and like the only thing then is to get from one part to the other, which you can do by bus, because obviously I have no money, right? So to be able to go to nature and to see what's around me, to be in the moment, to walk through cornfields as the wind rustles across the heads, right? And it's a beautiful thing to hear the wind rushing past my ears. And again, to see the red kites because they're everywhere, you know, to see pike, you know, the fish that are in the canals, which I didn't know we had. It was just incredible walking, and you're thinking, what is that tiger looking thing in the water? I hadn't seen anything like that before. I thought it was some escaped pet from somewhere, but apparently no, the pike is a British fish, right? So kind of, yeah, or seeing chaffinches and jaybirds, and you know, kind of really taking in what's around me, and at the same time walking through kind of forests, almost woods, and noticing the way that the light dapples down through the leaves and onto the ground on which I'm walking, and being aware of each step and the ways in which the ground can shift and move as you move through. And I will say this, you know, I have an aversion to two things, right? One is water and rain, and the other thing is hills, right? So Leeds is very hilly, and so I'm going around the kind of the country where I remember one of the first walks that I did. There was a lot of hills, and I was getting a bit tired, and by that point I bought my waterproof. So I had a jacket and I got my waterproof boots and I put them on, and it was February, right? So, you know, the weather is very changeable, as we know. And about 15 minutes before the kind of the end of the route, and up until that point, it'd been very sunny but a bit cold, right? The heavens opened, like the sky darkened, the heavens opened, the rain was sideways. Literally, it was hitting my face. I put my hood up and I'm walking, and it was torrential. It was wild, right? Within a moment, kind of the ground I was on was sodden. And I'm walking in this kind of avalanche of rain. I'm thinking, huh, I I'm quite enjoying this. That's interesting, and it lasted 15 minutes. It was one of them flash things. It kind of came and it went, right? And 15 minutes later, the sun was out, it was blue sky, it was like nothing had happened. And I remember going to a cafe and sat down and had my coffee, and I thought, oh, okay. Well, if I can deal with that, I can deal with a bit more, right? So there's a group called Come Outside who are based in Leeds, and they do a lot of running and walking every Saturday, but they also were doing a hike. And I'd never hiked before. So it was in March, and we did something called the Kettlewell Circular, which is out in the Yorkshire Dales, which is a stunning, beautiful part of England. And bearing in mind, I've travelled all over England, like all over Wales and the Brecon Beacons and Scotland and all of that area. It was a really stunning scenery. And there was about 40 of us, and I'm walking, and there's two massive hills, like massive. Like the second one was so big, I couldn't breathe. I'm walking up there. I've got my backpack on. You've got all these youngsters running past me going, "Come on, Pauline." And I'm basically going, "Oh, F off," because I was just like, please leave me alone. But as I got to the top of this hill and seeing the surrounding area and the beauty and the majesty of it all, I just thought, I just want to keep doing this, actually. And so that journey, I didn't realize at the time, was something where I was beginning to transform the anger into something else. I think initially it was transforming it from anger into peace, to reclaim that peace for myself. Because I know that when I walk, it's just me and the surrounding area, right? There's so much that goes on in the world, politically, socially, personally, work-wise. And being out in nature reminds me that there's so much more beauty in the world than the ugliness of humans. And nature has no judgment. It lives, it breathes, it dies. There's no kind of, oh, you did this, or you did this, or I think you're like this, or whatever. It just is. And so in that space, I was able to claim that safety net back for myself.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, what started to happen was, I've got an iPhone, so I started taking pictures, right? And what I found is really interesting about that is, I've got like DLR, SLR, kind of those really big cameras kind of thing. And I've had that for years, literally, and I've never used it. I've never used it. It was like insane. I bought it for a project that, anyway, it was a whole thing. And what I found has been really interesting is just going back a step. When I was 15, I ended up in a hostel in London, and I entered a photography competition at that point. And the photography competition was about the homeless, because I was homeless, and I won X amount of money, right? And so scroll forward to now, it's really interesting. And part of my reclamation, I think, is that I'm now taking lots of photographs, and it's two-pronged. One is to remind me of where I've been, because with all of the trauma that I've been going through and all the rupture that I've been going through, it has been at times really difficult for me to keep a sense of what I've done, who I've spoken to, where I've been. And so the taking of the pictures is partly to remind me of those things. Because in the space that I'm inhabiting at the moment, it's a weird kind of hybrid between being completely static, and then my only moments is going out and walking, and what that does to the creative brain, and it frees it up somewhat, and also because I think with with that kind of journey of photography, I want to start to write again, which is interesting. I started to write a little bit of poetry now. And I don't know where any of it is going. And, based on the workshop that we did where we met, which was a zine making workshop, I've kind of started to kind of look at what does it mean for me to put these experiences down on a zine. And again, it's about that full kind of autonomy.
Mm. Wow. And just what just sharing. I love what, you took us out with you when you're walking, and those two things that are a version, the water, the rain, and the hills. But you've just told us you're rewriting your story, all the narratives that we have been telling ourselves, that you are expanding your capacity. And you can't really say that now you've got an aversion because you're doing it, you're being it, you're out there. And I think that is so beautiful. And that reminder is, yeah, there is so much beauty in this world. And it can be in nature, but also you can find it in people, even though there's ugliness in people, if you know what I mean. Um,
Yeah, I
I,
do.
I think that is the motto of the whole thing about Earth Sea Love. It is that through that connection with nature, she gave me back, or maybe for the first time, that self-love. But because I've got that capacity now, I love myself, I have so much more capacity to love other people, even in their ugliness and flaws. And that means that I have that bigger capacity, not just for love, but to care and to keep turning up to care. So thank you for that. And I'm interested in when you're saying you are multidisciplinary, as you said, you're a multidisciplinary artist, and how you're exploring, reclaiming past genres with your photography and your poetry. And I'm interested, and you're saying about zines, because we love zines here. We but are you seeing them coming together and meshing together within a zine? Because I'm really interested. So please, I mean, but don't share, in that stage where it's all delicate and you don't want to share and you want to keep it under wraps. I don't mind.
It's interesting. I mean, the one thing that I can write, I can direct, I can dance still, only just. I choreograph, I mentor. Seems like I can take these pictures. And I think the one thing that I've never been able to do is kind of use my hands to create art, right? Which has been really interesting. So, when I was a dancer, that was writing with the body. Okay. So that was what that was. Writing is obviously writing on the page and then writing for performance. The photography and the zine making, I brought one along with me. Actually, it was the first one that I did as part of that workshop because I completed it. And what I found was really interesting was the only other time that I've used my hands to make a thing was when I had a period of time when I was crocheting or knitting. I feel like I have to be quite settled
Mm.
to do that. And what I found was really interesting with the zine making was I'm able to do that regardless of what I'm thinking, regardless of how I'm feeling in that moment. I spent like 3 or 4 hours on this thing. It's very simple, right? And it's my first one, but I'm really proud of it.
Let's have a
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got,
go.
and what's been interesting about this, for those who aren't able to see, on the front of it, what's the issue? And there's a picture of a black woman and wondering why. The tagline is making the unfelt real. So that's the first one. That's the first page. On the second page, there's another picture of a black woman. It's something that I said many, many years ago, which I feel is so relevant to me now. And I feel like a stranger in a familiar land with no anchor and no support. And that absolutely, yeah, it's something that I definitely feel right now. And it's got things like strength and beauty on there. And it's got lots of no written in kind of bold black letters. And then a final thing of I'm seeking homeness, a place of safety, be it in community, at work, at play.
It was you we were talking about Ingrid Pollard, weren't we?
Yeah,
Pastoral. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
And again and again, it's like safety just keeps coming up again and again. And it's seeking that safety, isn't it, within our own selves, but then also in those circles that we circulate in, and how we actually spend a lot of time and energy to create spaces where we can be safe in community with others.
I mean,
And
certainly it drives a lot of the work that I had done previously, right? What is the best way to, as it was previously, have conversations that are quite difficult? So obviously that was around identity. In this new season, I am literally like, fuck the identity shit, right? I want to be in community with people who look like me,
uh,
who may or may not have gone through the things, the ruptures, but
yeah,
just want to exist and just be. I mean, that's not too much to ask, right? And how to be safe within that. It's a difficult one because I'll be frank and say in the environment in which I'm in, which is not in nature, but in the environment that I'm in, I am never safe.
recognize. No, we recognize that and try to keep telling people that. And it's like, what's your problem? What's your issue? It's like, I don't have those conversations anymore because you're not going to get it. It's just like, I just go about doing or making or being safe myself, whatever it takes by any means necessary. And if that means, I'm cutting you out of my life, I'm cutting you out of my life because you do not make me feel safe.
Look, don't feel safe, don't feel held. And actually, it just draws out the worst.
Oh,
Like, you know, uh, just to give a small example, just in case there's people there kind of going, well, what does that mean? I don't know what it means. Just last week or the week before, I was at a show in the Leeds area, and I had walked into the theatre and I was going to the bar. And as I had my headphones on, I took them off a little bit so I could hear the person who was serving me. And behind me, I'm hearing, oi, oi, come here, come here. I couldn't figure out, there was a noise. So I turned because I thought, it was early. So it was about 45 minutes or so before the show was up. So there was a few people milling about and everybody was looking to see where this noise was coming from. And I turned and I saw a white guy that I knew, a much older white guy, but that's not the point. And he's literally snapping his fingers in the air and calling like I'm some sort of waitress.
service. Yeah.
Right. I couldn't quite believe. I was like, okay, what is happening? So I walked to him and I said, "What? How are you calling me like that?" And he literally said, "I have to be strong with you, otherwise you'll walk straight past me." Now, bearing in mind, I was feet away from him. I wasn't even close to him, and this is the kind of the unsafetyness of the situation in which I just to go in and see a show. I'm being greeted with the tomfoolery. Yeah.
Come. To be strong with you. That's how he calls it. Yeah. To us, that's being rude and disrespectful. And if we did it to him, he would see it as rude as disrespectful. Yeah. But not his behavior towards you. Because you don't frigging count, babes.
Well, this is the other thing, that kind of the safety and the love that you were talking about and being able to have that for other people. I
Mhm.
have a lot of very strong boundaries now
Yeah.
around that.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that I've realized is when I give my love and my safety and my trust that freely, unfortunately, white supremacy in the way that it works will come and exploit it. They will come and destroy it, right? And so with that,
Yeah.
setting up those boundaries are really important. It teaches people how they must
Treat me.
yeah,
Treat me.
treat.
Or if you're rolling with me or what dealing with me, this is the way you gotta deal with me. And if you're complaining, hey, I have articulated it. I have signposted it. I have written in the sky. If you fail to notice or read that or think it doesn't include you, that is your problem, not mine.
It's your problem, and I wish you well. Goodbye.
No, jog on, man. Jog on.
I love the phrase jog on. Absolutely. That's the kind of tomfoolery that people don't realize that we as Black women often have no choice. go through, right? Just that thing of being able to have these moments of anger and flashes of disappointment, and to sit down with a zine. Okay, I can take time. I can take time. I can cut this bit out. I can figure out what does that mean. And I find that that is also part of me being able to heal, that despite the things that I feel, it's not about running away from those things. It's about acknowledging those things and embracing those things, but not sitting with those things.
And it is through doing that, working through those feelings, sitting with them, being with them, acknowledging them, that we actually appreciate the joy and the pleasure that we get elsewhere, or through the process of working through them, we get to that point of joy and pleasure. And so, yeah, that's what I said, man, rupture to rapture.
I hope you don't mind. I am nicking that. Thank you very much.
Take it, run with it, because that's the other thing. I do not own anything, or you know what I mean? Flowing, all free flowing with me, because I do not get my worth from, what I produce or what I say. I get my worth from being from within,
I think you just raised such an important point there. The one thing that white supremacy does is it views everything as production, or produce in some way, shape, or form. And certainly, I think throughout my entire life up to this moment, the one thing that I don't think I realized I was railing against, but now I realize I am doing, is railing against that, right? That I'm more than a means. I'm more than just production. I'm more than a barrier to prove that I'm not being racist. I'm far more than that. And the opposition that you get is because people inwardly, I think they know they're doing that, but outwardly, to be told that in their face, they don't like it, right?
Because they've got to deal with themselves. They've got to see themselves, and it's so much easier to shove that to the side or shove it down and just deal with the outside, because where we might say this is the problem, this is the issue, but we become the problem because we raised it, and that you're saying to thingy against it. It is, but I don't do it now as against it. I don't knock up against it, because I just don't deal with it. I just refuse. I'm just looking the other way, man. It's like I'm looking like whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not giving you my attention. I'm not giving you my energy.
Exactly right. And I think, me being out in nature is also part of the way in which I can do that, right? Because being out and walking, I went up Whernside, which is one of the tallest of 3 Yorkshire peaks.
Hill. Was it a hill?
Well, technically, apparently, it's a mountain. Don't ask me. Talk to the mountain leader. I don't know, right? But it was so fascinating going up there, because even though I was with this big group of people, there's about 35 of us, 40 or something, to be able to just walk, and we were walking in peat bog and all sorts. And so even though I was with everybody, I was able to just inhabit me as I am right now. And so if I felt to speak, then I would speak. And if I didn't, then I wouldn't. And I think that it also teaches me, being in nature teaches me how to then be when I'm in the city.
Yeah.
And that I absolutely value so much, And we've all been through it. One of them types of people who are like, if you say something to me, I've got to come back to you. But now I'm just like, you know what? That's what you think. Don't say anymore. I don't need to be around you.
Again, repeating what we said, but it's like we spent so much time and energy investing in that, convincing them I'm good, I'm enough, or you're wrong, or have you considered it this way? And it's just like, I'm not saying I disengage in the point that I'm not talking to people or having these conversations. It's just like I'm just picking my times or my issue or my things that I will go to battle for.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, yeah, man, I've got better things to be doing, It's like,
Yeah. So it's that thing, new season that I've come into, and looking at the zines and doing the walking and doing the poetry and doing the photography. I don't know where it's going, but that's also the joy of it.
Totally, totally. And that is part of, future feminism. It's actually refusing and then putting our time, energy, or attention, or imaginations into other possibilities, And and it is the unknown, but like, hey, we know what it has been before. We know what's been going on in the past. We know how it's been, and like, hey, it's much better facing into the unknown and holding ourselves into those spaces and seeing what's there with the joy and the pain and whatever. We know how. Let's transform that motion.
And keep moving forward, right? Because that's the other thing that white supremacy does. It keeps us stuck in the past.
Totally.
And so looking forward, and I don't know what's forward,
No,
right? For me, right? But none of us do,
not at
right?
all. But it's Tina camped.
Mm.
Tina camped, and in one of her images, it's like knowing that we need a different or better alternative future, but it's making that future now. What you're saying, we're in the now, and whatever is possible, we're living it now
Yeah.
because that's so much more liberatory, liberatory than anything else that we have been doing. I mean, I'm not denying the past. I'm not like running away from it. I know I'm standing on so many people's backs and shoulders from my ancestors. But I know when I'm looking forward and maybe jogging a little bit, running a little bit in my flight, in my fugitive state, I know they're in my ear going, go, Sheree, go, Sheree, go. We're with you, babes. Keep going.
So funny. It's so fun. Absolutely. That kind of the walking with your ancestors is something that I think I'm feeling very much more so since the passing of my dad, right? A couple of years ago. It should have and could have been a very seminal moment again, but because of all the rupture that was going on, it was yet another rupture. But coming out from that period of time and walking in nature, I feel so much more connected to my dad now, right, than ever before. And then just thinking about kind of the lineage of work that goes before you, and just touching base again on Ingrid Pollard and pastoral interludes. There's the one picture of her, black and white, and she sat with her legs together, and I think her hands are in her lap, and she's kind of looking up, and all around her is just greenery, right? And that picture there, I think for me, it was so much about the joy of just being in nature, being quiet, not having to think, or if there are thoughts that are occurring, then you allow those thoughts to move through, right? It moves through like exactly the
Just
wind.
like air, just like breathing. It's like, yeah. Yeah.
Ah, exactly. You know, the joy and the freedom of being in that space and place is something that I now finding I want to always reconnect with
Yeah.
consistently. And even yesterday on my big walk, I'm now walking up to 10 miles. So bearing in mind a day. So,
Wow.
earlier this year, I could just about manage like 3 kilometers, something like that, and be like, oh my God, I just don't know what I'm doing here. I'm now walking up to 10 miles. And my kind of longer term plan in terms of the physicality of walking is to do the Yorkshire Three Peaks later on in the year. And that's 24 miles of nothing but hills. But that's yeah. But those experiences I can then bring back to where I am in the urban city.
Gosh, yeah, and that's what we do. That's why, Earthly Love was created. It was a case of like I was healing in nature, I was being fortified and empowered, and it was just a case like people that look like us are missing a tip here. It gave me that strength, that smile to actually go back into my everyday life and turn up as me in all my fullness and not give a fuck. You know what I mean? It's like whatever you throw at me, it doesn't matter because I knew I could go back and be with nature, be in the sea and give thanks. I'm not just taking from it. It's a reciprocal thing. It is a case of like, I give my gratitude. I do every time I turn. I was like, thanks for being here. So yeah, it is. We get that. It's for me. I say it's my medicine. I'm taking my medicine so I can navigate through all that other shit that might be thrown at me, but on my own terms. On my own terms.
That autonomy thing is the one thing that is non-negotiable,
No, no.
right? I think with that and reclaiming who I am right now with everything
Yeah.
is a journey that is exciting to me as space exploration, which I love the idea of and never got to do because I never got into maths or science or anything like that. So I do it through watching sci-fi. That's how I do it. But it's like being out in the unknown. I don't know where this journey is going, but the one thing that I do know is I want to continue to create in community, with others. And I feel very strongly that, going back to kind of full circle moment and how we met on the Zoom, I feel that's what I got from you, actually. That space and understanding that in community, there's incredible things that we can do together.
So I saw you. I saw you. I've seen you now, and I just like to say, like, okay, I think it started off, let's have some questions, but hey, it's finished off as a conversation in community. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of Earthsea Love. And I keep saying this because Earthsea Love, when this goes out, like we are recording, it is the 10th of July. Yeah. This episode is gonna go out on the 13th of July. Really soon. Why? Because it is the 5th year birthday, or as Maxine would say, born day of Earthsea Love.
Oh my goodness.
And we're releasing 3 episodes at once because that's what we did on our first trip around on our first launch. We did 3 at a time because we were dropping quality all the time and we were having cake. It was all virtual because it was 2020, wasn't it? It was the pandemic. It was all virtual, so there's me eating cake on repeat. It's like in celebration. There's balloons, because I was so pumped that we were bringing out a Sea Love, the podcast, and like I'm still in that energy. I'm so pumped that we can be sharing these conversations because I get so much from the conversation in the now. Then when I edit it, and I don't edit it, I'm telling everyone now, I do not edit it at all, really. The only thing I get out is if I'm stuttering and when I get so excited. or, or if there's a lot of likes in there, or you know what I mean. That's the only thing that is cut out because we are edited enough within society, within our lives, within the circles that we run with, that I do not edit it. And if it goes over the hour, like this one has, but just a little bit, I might put it out in 2 episodes, give them double whammy, put it in half. Why am I saying this? Because I might forget to put it in the show notes of the show. But yeah, 5 years we have.
Oh my, I am, listen, Sheree, I'm so honored. I didn't know. I didn't know. That's amazing. That has really seriously touched me, very much so. Happy anniversary
Oh,
to
thank you.
you and to the podcast.
Anniversary to you too, because everybody who comes on the podcast are part of the Earthsea Love podcast. Yeah, I could not make this, be this without the guests giving their time, their energy, their love, their care, the whole shebang. So happy anniversary to you too. Happy birthday.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.